The camera showed the handshake, Trump smiling, Xi standing firm, flags behind them. CEOs waiting in the background. The stage looked polished, the language sounded careful. But the real story may not have been in the photo. It may have been in the price. Because Trump did not arrive in Beijing with only a trade agenda. He arrived with the Iran war still burning, Hormuz still dangerous, oil markets still exposed, and Washington still searching for a way out before the crisis swallowed everything else. Now hold on. That changes the whole meeting. Because if the United States needed China's help on Iran, then this was not just another summit, it was a bargaining table. And the question becomes uncomfortable. What did Trump have to put on that table to get Xi Jinping to move? Tariffs, technology, investment access, silence on Taiwan, or something we will only recognize months from now? That is the secret trade-off. Not secret because nobody can see the pieces. Secret because the real bargain may never be announced in public. It may appear later as separate headlines. A softer statement here. A trade truce there, a tech license quietly approved, a calmer Hormuz, a sudden business deal. And only later do people realize those pieces may have belonged to the same puzzle. Trump's public message was simple. He did not need China's help on Iran. That sounded strong. It sounded presidential. It sounded like Washington still controlled the game. But politics is not only what leaders say in public. It is what they need behind closed doors. And behind closed doors, Trump had a problem. The war on Iran had changed the entire atmosphere around his China trip. Project Freedom had already exposed the danger of forcing movement through Hormuz without full regional support. Oil markets were nervous. Shipping routes were unstable. Iran was not simply folding under pressure. And the Strait of Hormuz remained the pressure point that could turn a regional war into a global economic wound. So even if the official agenda said trade, tariffs, artificial intelligence, investment, and market access, Iran was still in the room. Not loudly, strategically. Let me explain why China mattered so much. China does not command Iran. China does not control every decision in Tehran. But China has something America does not have. An economic channel Iran cannot ignore. China buys Iranian oil. China gives Tehran space to breathe. China talks to Russia. China can speak to Iran without carrying the same hostility Washington carries. That means China does not need to control Iran to influence Iran. It only needs to shape Iran's calculation. If Beijing says do not escalate too far, Tehran listens differently. If Beijing says Hormuz cannot keep bleeding global trade, Tehran pays attention. If Beijing keeps buying oil, Iran can wait. If Beijing slows down, Iran feels pressure. That is leverage. And Trump understood that, even if he did not want to say it too loudly. Because if America could not force Iran to accept its terms alone, then China became part of the exit. Not the whole exit, but part of it. And sometimes part of the exit is enough to change the whole room. This is where things get complicated. China wanted the war to stop, but China did not see it as China's war to solve. From Beijing's view, America helped create the crisis. America escalated pressure. America now needed a way out. So why should Xi hand Trump a diplomatic victory for free? That is the quiet question behind the handshake. China did not want Hormuz closed forever. China did not want an oil shock. China did not want shipping chaos. China did not want a wider Middle East war that damaged Asian energy security. But China had also prepared for uncertainty. It had built reserves. It had diversified suppliers. It had deepened ties with Iran. It had strengthened relations with Russia. In other words, China was not sweating. It had prepared for this moment for years. And when one side is not desperate, it negotiates differently. Trump needed a visible win. Xi could wait for the price. So what could that price have been? Start with tariffs. This was the easiest currency on the table. Not easy politically, but easy to understand. China wanted a longer tariff truce, not a short pause, not a temporary gesture that could disappear after the cameras left, a real window of stability. Because tariffs are not only taxes, they are pressure. They shape investment. They change supply chains. They tell companies whether to move factories, delay deals, or keep betting on China. So if Trump wanted China to help lower the temperature on Iran, Beijing could ask for breathing room in trade. Less pressure, more predictability, more time. And time matters to China. China uses time well. It does not need every concession at once. It needs enough space to keep building, keep exporting, and keep negotiating from strength. That may have been the first price. Help us with Iran. Give us more room on tariffs. But tariffs were only the beginning. The harder price was technology, artificial intelligence, advanced chips, semiconductors, export controls. This is where the bargain became dangerous, because tariffs hurt China today, but technology restrictions threaten China's future. Washington has used export controls to slow China's access to advanced chips and high-end semiconductor tools. That is not just trade policy. That is strategic containment. So if Trump wanted Xi's help on Iran, the uncomfortable question became this: would he soften the tech pressure? Would he approve exceptions? Would he open limited channels for artificial intelligence or semiconductor cooperation? Would US firms get more room to sell? Would Chinese firms get more access? We do not know. And we should not pretend we know. But this is the watch point. If after the meeting, the language around advanced technology suddenly became softer, that would matter. Because great power bargains do not always arrive as dramatic announcements. Sometimes they arrive as licenses, waivers, quiet approvals, new working groups, a softer phrase in a government statement. That is how the real payment can begin. Now look at the business delegation. This was not just diplomacy, it was theater, but not empty theater. It was corporate power entering the room. Tim Cook, Elon Musk, Boeing, finance, payments, technology, energy, agriculture, investment. Trump wanted to return home with visible wins. Planes sold, agricultural purchases, energy commitments, artificial intelligence talks, CEOs smiling, markets calming. That is the image he wanted. But note this carefully. Those CEOs also told Xi something. American companies still wanted China. Apple still depends heavily on Chinese manufacturing networks. Tesla still depends on China as a major market and supply chain hub. Boeing wants aircraft sales. Financial firms want access. Chip companies want fewer restrictions. So when Xi looked at the room, he did not only see Trump. He saw American dependency dressed up as a business delegation. That is the CEO shield. The public sees business leaders. Xi sees leverage, because Trump wanted to show that America could still make deals. But China wanted to show that it still had something American power wanted. Now, we get to the most sensitive part. Silence, not surrender, not a formal deal, not a signed document. Silence. In geopolitics, what leaders stop saying can matter as much as what they say. Taiwan is one place to watch. The South China Sea is another. If Washington suddenly became quieter, more careful, or more diplomatic around China's red lines after asking for help on Iran, that would not prove a secret bargain. But it would become a signal. Xi may not need Trump to announce a reversal. Sometimes Beijing only needs Washington to lower the temperature. Fewer public threats, less symbolic confrontation, less military theater, more careful language. And in exchange, China may help keep Iran from pushing the crisis too far. Again, this is not proof. It is a pattern to watch. Because powerful states often trade tone before they trade policy. And silence can be valuable. Now, hold on. This is the part most people miss. A secret trade-off does not always look like one grand agreement. It can look like coincidence. A tariff pause here, a business deal there, a tech exception, a quieter Taiwan week, a calmer Hormuz, a more flexible Iran, a softer Chinese statement, a less aggressive American headline. One piece by itself may look ordinary, but put them together, and you may begin to see the shape of the bargain. That is why the next few weeks matter more than the photo op. Do not only watch what Trump and Xi said, watch what changed after they met. Did China buy more US energy? Did Beijing announce aircraft purchases? Did Washington extend tariff relief? Did the language around chips soften? Did Chinese-linked firms get easier access to investment? Did Taiwan become less visible in official rhetoric? Did Iran reduce pressure around Hormuz? Did Chinese vessels move more freely through the Strait? Did Tehran suddenly become more flexible after Beijing spoke? Those are the signals. Not one headline, a pattern. And that pattern may tell us whether the trade-off was real, because the public saw diplomacy, but the real story may have been the price of influence. The world may remember the handshake, but history may remember the price. Trump did not just go to Beijing with a list of purchases. He went with the Iran war still burning, Hormuz still exposed, and Washington still searching for a way out. Xi did not receive him as a desperate rival. He received him as a president under pressure. That changes the room. So the question is not only what Trump asked for. The question is what Xi demanded before China gave anything back. Was it tariff relief? Was it technology access? Was it investment space? Was it silence around Taiwan? Or was it something we will only recognize months from now when separate headlines begin to look like pieces of one bargain? Because the real deal may never be announced. It may appear slowly, in softer language, in quiet approvals, in new business openings, in calmer shipping routes, in a more flexible Iran. That is the part to watch. If this breakdown helped you see the pressure behind the Trump-Xi meeting, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and watch the next Liberation Lens analysis on your screen. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you were in the room, what would you give up to avoid a wider war with Iran? Tariffs, chips, Taiwan pressure, or nothing at all? This is Liberation Lens, where perspective matters, and where we do not just follow the headline, we follow the power behind it.